Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
An unscrupulous person,
some angry left-wing law clerk,
trying to subvert the way the Supreme Court operates.
In order to politically impact the elections, the Democrats are hoping is this will re-energize a base that has been so disappointed with the Biden administration.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. We've got a 3-hour program. We're going to try to squeeze into 60 minutes. The Supreme Court is all over the news. In fact, if you want to find other news, you got to dig a little deeper. Of course, by now, this is old news. Everybody's heard that the Supreme Court has... Well, you know that Samuel Alito's draft was leaked, and we were just debating which Supreme Court justice staff leaked it or which Supreme Court justice leaked it. I doubt if one of the justices did. Whether or not a clerk or an employee leaked it, highly likely. And this is not going to be hard to figure out. I mean, there's not that many people that have access to this information. The Chief Justice, John Roberts, was not happy. The Supreme Court issued a response to the report that the draft opinion had been leaked. In a brief message, the court acknowledged the leak, and it said the document is real, by the way. There's not a question now. And apparently the people that would have signed onto the document with Samuel Alito were the ones that you would have thought. Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch were the five. We're assuming, and again, the draft was genuine, which basically says it's time to end Roe v. Wade. That is genuine, but it's not the final draft, and it's not the final vote. If you know anything about the Supreme Court, you know they say, okay, we're going to hear a case. The attorneys file the written briefs. They set up an oral argument. They come together to hear the oral argument, and the oral argument can go 40 minutes per side, or it can last a lot longer if the justices decide they want to have more information and dialogue and ask the attorneys questions. But generally speaking, you know, they'll go a couple of hours at the very longest, usually less than that. They'll have the oral argument, then immediately they will go back and they will have a discussion amongst themselves, and within sometimes within minutes, but certainly within hours, they will take a vote on that case. Now, it's a preliminary vote. How do you feel about it? Which side, how are you going to vote? They vote, and the majority then, they assign the opinion writing to one of the members of the majority. And in this case, assuming that happened, they decided to have Samuel Alito write the opinion. That has been leaked. Now, and what happens then is the opinion is passed around, it's edited, people make suggestions. There's dissenting opinions that are written off of that. And then just prior to it becoming public, they will go back into the 9 justices will get together and they will re-vote again on what they think of their opinion. Are you still in favor of it? So one of the reasons why this was leaked is to bring a lot of pressure onto these justices. I mean, another reason they leaked it is, quite frankly, and it's already started today, the Democrats have already sent out an email begging for money and their votes in this upcoming general election. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Absolutely. You know, last night when I first heard the breaking news, I just got where I could sit down and turn on television. I happened to turn on Sean Hannity, and he was opening with that. So I intentionally, because I know.
And you immediately, by the way, texted me and said, "Turn on Sean." Yeah.
And I immediately switched away from him because I know what his reaction is going to be on it. So I immediately went to some other channels just to see
what the opposition was saying,
see what they were going to say. And right off the bat, they start talking about the politicization of the court, of the Supreme Court. Of course, blame Trump for his 3 appointments and that type of thing. But what I find interesting, they say that, And how many times do you see Republicans go and Republican leadership? You don't see this. You see Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and others in the Democrat Party go to the Supreme Court steps and hold press conferences about issues when there's a case going on. Obama was the first president that I know of in my adult life, and I've seen every single State of the Union since I was like less than 10 years old, and I'm in my 50s. He was the first one that I ever saw call out the Supreme Court in the State of the Union address on national TV.
And it was Samuel Alito that shook his head and said no to his comments.
So, the Democrats have been politicizing the court. I mean, they threatened just for the last few months, let's pack the court. Let's pack every federal
If that's not politicization of the court, I don't know what is.
Exactly. So, I mean, this to me is obvious that, hey, we're killing it in the polls. Our border is a mess. Inflation is the worst it's been in 40, 50 years. We've got a leader of the party, leader of the free world that can't complete a sentence. We got to take off the focus on and put it on something else and try to rally our base for the midterms, because everyone says we're going to get crushed in the midterms. It's a political move without a doubt.
Well, and if you were to look at the news today and look at the reaction from Hollywood and the left, it is you would think that the Supreme Court opinion would be not only are we undoing Roe v. Wade and sending the right to abortion to be decided by the people in the state legislatures. That's all that's happened. I mean, they have not come out. You'd think they came out and they said, abortion ends today, and anybody that commits abortion or has an abortion will be electrocuted. I mean, to see their reaction, it is, quite frankly, I would like to see abortion outlawed. That's my personal opinion. That's not what the court has said. The court has said this is going to be a states' rights issue. And the folks in California, they're in the process of creating an industry for abortion. That you pay them, they fly you out there, they put you in a hotel, they take you to your local Planned Parenthood or whatever abortion mill you want to go to. They give the abortion, they check you out, they send you back home. It's all said and done.
Yeah, and they argue, hey, Roe versus Wade has been the law of the land for almost 50 years. Well, first of all, it was not a law that was created by the people. It was created by the justices, this president. And it's not like it's been, it's been decided. We all agree. It has been my entire lifetime has been a constant debate every single election cycle. So Democrats, what do you want? Do you want the people to decide? Or do you want justices to decide about every little issue? I mean, it's really the start of legislation by the bench, to be honest with you.
Well, and that's where it started from, and that's where they wanted to continue. Interestingly, Samuel Alito addressed that very issue in his opinion piece, and it's available online. If you go to Politico, they're the ones that ended up. It was leaked to them, and there's all kinds of links on just about every different site that you can read the opinion. It's a fairly easy read. But one of the things he says as related to the fact, because remember when the justices passed this, and then they passed Casey versus the Planned Parenthood, they kept saying, well, if we pass this, it's going to bring peace and harmony to the world. That once this is settled law, and of course you've heard the liberals talk about this over and over again. Oh, the Supreme Court decided it, therefore it's settled law. Don't argue it. Well, if the Supreme Court changes its mind, it's settled law. You're not going to argue it. But to the fact that liberals came out and said, well, this will decide it once and for all, and we can get on. Alito wrote, Roe certainly did not succeed in ending division on the issue of abortion. On the contrary, Roe inflamed a national issue that has remained bitterly divisive for the past half century. The court's inability to end debate on the issue should not have been surprising. This court cannot bring about the permanent resolution of a rancorous national controversy simply by dictating a settlement and telling people just move on. Whatever influence the court may have on public attitudes must stem from the strength of our opinions, not an attempt to exercise raw judicial power. I thought that was the most powerful statement in his entire draft. But he answers a lot of the questions that people have argued you can't go there. Joe Biden today, boy, Joe Biden is
pitiful.
Pitiful.
What happened?
I mean, one of the, and I'll get into more of his comments, but one of the things that was really pitiful was the fact that he was incoherent. And he is not a theologian. I mean, for being a devout Catholic, he does not have any idea which end is up. He came out and said today, this devout Catholic came out and said today, Roe says what all basic mainstream religions have historically concluded, that the existence of a human life and being is a question, and it is at the moment of conception. Is it 6 months, 6 weeks? Is it quickening, like Aquinas argued? Basically, he came out and said that all mainstream religions would support Roe v. Wade. It's beyond the pale, and he just continues to make an idiot of himself. He earlier today said that the Supreme Court's draft opinion to overturn Roe v. Wade really is quite a radical decision, warning that if sustained, a whole range of rights are in question. You know, one of the interesting things about this, and of course then the Democrats went on to ask for money. The President of the United States, and we've got the January 6th Commission that basically says, wait a minute, there's an insurrection that took place when the people went to the Capitol. We now have and Trump was blamed for it, right? Well, we now have a president today that came out when someone, is it criminal? I'm not a lawyer. I would think that this person should be charged. Mitch McConnell said he should be charged. Jonathan Turley said he certainly could be charged if he doesn't cooperate with the FBI and lies about it or did something illegal to get the information over. But consider the fact that you have the President of the United States that basically has come out and slammed the judicial branch, a third of our government. He has basically come out and undermined that. And yet he comes out and says that if this is going to be sustained, a whole range of rights will now be in question. Well, the bottom line is these rights that he's referring to are the fabricated rights of progressive judicial activists that have creatively invented ways of saying but never really believing that these rights are constitutionally upheld. They're not. And Alito, again, came out real clearly today and said, you know what? These so-called constitutional rights of abortion are not to be found anywhere in the Constitution.
No, and it's typical. You know, Democrats like to mention constitutional rights to an issue that they agree with.
Yeah, only when they agree with it.
And act like, you know, they're golden, written in stone. To carry on what Biden said today, it's funny you started mentioning it and didn't finish. I had circled this. About when he talks about the radical decision. I thought this was kind of rich. With the typical hypocrisy of the Democrat and the progressives. Biden went on to say, all the decisions we make in private life, who you marry, whether you can have an abortion, how you raise your child, it's a fundamental shift. Okay, how you raise your child. But they're okay with the government allowing a child to go cut off their private parts, and the parents don't have any say.
Or whisking them out for an abortion.
Yeah, well, it's just... Their hypocrisy is just stunning to me, but it's on every issue. It's every issue.
He went on to say one of the issues this court, many members of the court have not acknowledged, is there a right to privacy in the Constitution? You know, again, and they go to the 14th Amendment. He says, quote, if this decision holds, it really is a radical decision. All the decisions make, just what you said, make in private life who you marry, whether you have an abortion, how you raise your child is a fundamental shift. Biden said earlier today in a statement that his administration had argued in defense of Roe v. Wade. By the way, Joe Biden on numerous occasions has said how he is against abortion. In 1982, he voted for an amendment to overturn abortion. He has sent out letters to constituents saying, I've voted to ban the funding of abortion over 50 times. So, I mean, this guy is
He's a chameleon.
Yeah.
Whatever he needs to be, whenever he needs to be it. Now he just can't remember what he needs to be at the moment.
But he says, Biden earlier on Tuesday in a statement that his administration has argued in defense of Roe v. Wade before the court, saying is based on the long line of precedent recognizing the 14th Amendment concept of personal liberty against government interference with intensely personal decisions. Well, again, Alito made very clear this 14th Amendment argument. He says, in his opinion, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provisions, including the one in which the defenders of Roe and Casey now chiefly rely, the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. That provision has been held to guarantee some rights that are not mentioned in the Constitution. Basically, anything you want, the 14th Amendment, progressives say, gives you the right to have. But any such right must be deeply rooted within this nation's history and tradition and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. The right to abortion does not fall within this category until the latter part of the 20th century. Such a right was entirely unknown in American law. Indeed, when the 14th Amendment was adopted, 3/4 of the states made abortion a crime at all stages of pregnancy. Roe's defenders characterized the abortion right as similar to the rights recognized in past decisions involving matters such as intimate sexual relationship, contraception, and marriage, but abortion is fundamentally different, as both Roe and Casey acknowledge, because it destroys what those decisions called fetal life, what the law now before us describes as unborn human being. It is, again, I'd encourage everybody to go back and read this opinion. It's a fairly easy read. It's very well written. And the arguments against this are just totally bizarre and frankly, very, very lacking.
You know, and Justice Alito is no stranger in writing. I mean, he's in the supporting opinions and dissenting opinions. I mean, he's typically the guy that drafts an awful lot I mean, I guess you could say conservative. I mean, he's conservative as it relates to constitutional law, but I mean, he's been quite prolific in his career writing the opinions.
That genius Eric Swalwell from California claimed today that the Republican Party was seeking to ban interracial marriage. The Republicans won't stop with banning abortion. They will ban interracial marriage. Do you want to save that? Swalwell wrote, well, you should probably go out and vote. It's interesting. Who would have thought that a Democrat like Swalwell would actually use the race card when it comes to abortion? Mm-hmm. I mean, the race card is their answer for everything.
And it's another case. I mean, I think it's just another issue. The bottom line, them releasing this opinion early, it just tears down the court. That should not happen in court because, you know, the justices should have a right to either, you know, support their opinion. They can change their mind. I mean, right on up to the point it's signed in the law, and to put pressure on people. And the justices saying, "Oh my gosh, they're rioting in the streets." I mean, heck, I hate to say it, but they might fear for their safety.
Oh, listen, they've got security now. I mean, absolutely. If you want to do something, pray for the safety of these 5 justices. Because I mean, I am not trying to implement scare tactics, but in all honesty, these individuals, I mean, look at Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They wouldn't hesitate for a second to try to take one of these people out.
There's no elected official when there's something that's being discussed at the Supreme Court and it hadn't been ruled on yet. Even after it's been ruled on, they have no business going to the steps of the Supreme Court and making a PR stunt like the Democrats are so famous for doing. Yeah. I mean, if that's not inciting a riot, if that's not an encouraging insurrection, what is?
Pray for their safety. Greg Murphy released a statement today. Yesterday's unprecedented leak undermines the integrity of the judicial process, and it must be thoroughly investigated. The American people will not tolerate this unethical breach designed to intimidate, disrupt, and obstruct the justices from upholding the constitutional obligations If the draft opinion holds, the legality of abortion, will rightfully return to the states where the American people have the power to decide through their elected officials. As a practicing physician and a lawmaker, I will continue to uphold the sanctity of life and defend those who cannot defend themselves. I pray our Supreme Court will ultimately protect the right to life. Well said. We got to take a time out. Stay with us. More news and views coming right up.
Whatever it takes. Reserve it right today at Greenville Toyota.
Hey, we're at Maribella's in Greenville, the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. If you haven't been to this place yet, let me tell you, you are missing out. I want to introduce my friends from Maribella's. I've got Sal, Massimo, and Pietro here. These guys are awesome. Not only do they make great food, they do a lot of things for the community, which we're going to be talking about. But Sal, let's start with you. Let's talk about the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. I'm a regular here. I love it. You guys call it Old World Pizza. Tell us what's different about your pizza.
Well, we got two kinds of pizzas. We have the traditional, American style, and then we have the Old World Pizza, which is made with fresh mozzarella, and the way they do it in Italy.
Massimo, when you talk about doing this food right, it's authentic. And when I talk about authentic, you grew up in Italy, so you grew up with this food. You know how to make it.
Yeah, because we grew up in Italy, we know the ingredient, and everything we do from scratch. And the right ingredient it's been hard for us to bring over here. And now finally we can get the right ingredient to make a right pizza.
All right, now I'm going to talk to my friend Pietro here at Maribella's. He's got the Nino's shirt on today. We're going to talk about Nino's, which is another great dining experience, upscale dining experience, on another segment upcoming. But Pietro, let's talk about Maribella's. For people who've never been to Maribella's, what's the experience going to be like when they come here? Not only pizzas, but pastas, salads, sandwiches, you got it all.
Yes, we do. We have new sandwiches that we put in this new location, and we're going to spread it to the other locations.
The guys here at Maribella's have won national pizza competitions, so you know it's good. Thanks to Sal, Massimo, and Pietro. Folks, do yourself a favor. Come to the new Maribella's here on Fire Tower Road in Greenville, or Maribella's on Greenville Boulevard, or Maribella's in Washington on Carolina Avenue. Also, don't forget upscale dining at Nino's on Red Banks Road.
Reserve and ride your pre-owned vehicle at Greenville Toyota. Shop a huge selection of quality used cars, trucks, SUVs, even luxury models, all with no charge maintenance, plus a 100,000-mile used car warranty. Reserve and ride at Greenville Toyota.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back. Benny Hardy in for Tom Lamprecht to take you to the top of the hour today. On this Tuesday, May 3rd, due to the weather, it's kind of hot today. It was 92 when I was rolling in today, and said today the high was supposed to be 88, but I think we got past that. Hoping to have some a little bit of rain chances tonight and tomorrow, 30% tonight and 60% tomorrow, and then a little bit of a cooler weather coming for Thursday and Friday as we roll into Mother's Day weekend, even a little cooler. So hopefully we badly need the rain. The farmers have really had a tough planting season so far. As you know, it's kind of dry and dusty out there. Before we move on and talk about the Supreme Court issue today and some other things, tomorrow at 5:20 on our show, we will have Judge Beth Freshwater Smith, that is running for the Court of Appeals in the Republican primary. She will be joining us tomorrow at 5:30. Be great to hear her and hear what she has to say. She is, I believe, from Wilson, I think, and so we'll have her on at 5:20 as we come up into primary season. As we continue, and if you guys want to call in to talk about the Supreme Court issue and the fact of the releasing of the opinion from last night, feel free to call in at 252-561-8255 and see what your thoughts are. We talked about all the comments today from various sources, and there's a very long article, but if you get a chance to Google it, you can find him. Glenn Greenwald, an attorney, blogger, writer, really a champion of individual rights. I have kind of followed him over the years on various topics. He's kind of I guess you could say, some would say conservative, some would say more libertarian. He's all about individual rights and the Constitution and that type of thing. He was the big person that spoke out really against the Bush administration and Congress at the time of just after 9/11 of the Patriot Act, and that was one that I thought really stamped on individual and personal freedoms and privacy and that type of thing. But he's got a long article today about the release of this information from the Supreme Court and really kind of the constitutional basis of Roe versus Wade and not on the constitutional side of things. But just to read briefly some of his things, he says, every time there's a controversy regarding a Supreme Court ruling, the same set of radical fallacies emerges regarding the role of the court, the Constitution, and how the American Republic is designed to function. Each time the court invalidates a democratically elected law on the ground that it violates a constitutional guarantee, as happened in Roe v. Wade, those who favor the invalidated proclaim that something undemocratic has transpired. That is a form of judicial tyranny for 5 unelected judges to overturn the will of the majority. Conversely, when the court refuses to invalidate a democratically elected law, those who regard that law as preconious, as an attack on fundamental rights, accuse the court of failing to protect vulnerable individuals. Well, this kind of gets to the premise of really the way our constitutional form of government is formed. People always want to point that we're a democracy. Well, we're actually a constitutional republic. If it wasn't for our Constitution and wasn't for us being able to elect leaders to represent us, then it would always be majority rule. So how about if I just say, the majority says that we don't like people with red hair, so let's don't let them do a certain function in society. That's not right. That's why we have a set of laws. And, a lot of things, if you go back to James Madison and some of the drafters and founders of our Constitution, and particularly through the federal papers, Mr. Greenwald refers to the Federalist Papers about this very issue. This is one of the primary concerns in designing the new American Republic, if not the chief concern, was how to balance the need to establish rule by majority, democracy, with equally compelling need to restrain majorities from veering into impassioned self-interest attacks on the rights of minorities. So, to my example, if redheads are the minority in society, that doesn't mean that majorities should be able to restrain their rights just because they're in the minority. As Madison put it in the Federalist Papers, to secure the public good and private rights against the danger of such a faction, and at the same time preserve the spirit in the form of popular government, is then the great object to which our inquiries are directed. So the point of the Constitution, ultimately the Supreme Court, was to establish a republic, not a public pure democracy, that would place powers on the majorities. So, Glenn Greenwald just writes a good op-ed on this today on his website, and it's kind of funny, the reaction of the progressives and the Dems that I spoke to just a few minutes ago from last night. Speaks to this very point. Everybody talks about the liberals last night was accusing the court of acting undemocratically as it announced the ability of 5 unelected aristocrats. So, I mean, so here's the question. So is it okay if, the 5 rule in your favor, but it's not okay when they rule against you? So which is it? And it just goes back to the point that Tom and we talk about all the time on several issues, that it's the job of the Supreme Court and the various lower courts to rule on the law that is enacted by the people. The people don't write the law necessarily, but they elect the people who write the law. So that's just another prime example of we see that every day, and it's kind of funny that with everything going on right now, with the border being a mess, inflation at a 40 or 50 year high, Joe Biden's numbers are just terrible. Every major poll right now says the midterm elections are just going to be a wipeout for Democrats. All of a sudden, someone in the court system, had to be probably an assistant of one of the justices or someone that works for the Supreme Court, leaked this opinion before it's time to be leaked to the public. So it's just another case of the Democrats making an issue and making a focus on one issue, trying to segregate people, trying to divide people so that the American public won't keep their eye on what's really happening in the world. Well, that's what we talked about all last night. I think I was texting last night to everybody I know that follows politics and stuff, and we knew it would be the news of the day. But there has been some other things going on in the world, and we didn't talk about it early in the week because, quite frankly, we probably didn't watch much of it. But I guess it was over the weekend. Washington always has their what some call the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Some call the White House Geek Prom or the Washington, D.C. Geek Prom. But they had the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And the last one that was, I guess they had, was in 2016 that a president went to, because Trump never attended those. And then we roll into COVID in 2020, so they hadn't had a White House Correspondents' Dinner since COVID. And I watched a little bit of tapes of it just because sometimes there's some funny stuff that goes on, and particularly when you have a comedian that will equally be tough on either party. And we haven't had that in comedy since Johnny Carson, Jay Leno. David Letterman was good up until the end. Up to the end, I guess he really started getting a little bit too one-sided in his political hits. Saturday Night Live used to be equally tough on everyone, but Saturday Night Live rarely, all they did for 4 years was just bash Trump, which Trump was an easy target on many things, just because of the way he looked and the way he acted sometimes, but they never got on President Obama much, and Biden's the easy target now, and they're getting on Biden a little bit more. But the comedian Trevor Noah, I just thought he had some good lines at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He started out and said, "Thank you for having me here, President Joe Biden. I was a little confused on why me, but then I was told to get your highest approval ratings when you have a biracial African guy standing next to you." So, and if you don't know Trevor Noah, I assume he's biracial. He appears to be biracial, but he was kind of making a dig to President Obama when he stands next to Joe Biden. He also went on to just really go after CNN, which I thought was hilarious, given the fact that they're an easy target. He said one thing he said I thought was really funny. He hit CNN with several digs, but he said it's glad that we're here after 2 years with COVID. We can get comfortable, but not too comfortable. Jeffrey Toobin, if you remember, Jeffrey Toobin was the legal correspondent for CNN. That in a Zoom call, let's just say he forgot to cut off the camera and took matters in his own hands, so to speak. But but he cracked on Jeffrey Toobin by not getting too comfortable. I thought that was pretty good. And then also he talked about where's Jeffrey Zucker, which is his leader of CNN, former president of CNN, that resigned last month or a couple of months ago. He said Jeff got fired off because he tried to keep his workplace relationship secret, which is weird because if he really didn't want anyone to know about him, he could have just made a show about it on CNN Plus, and and that was the reference to CNN Plus that lasted about as long as what, Clark? Maybe the Kentucky Derby? Yeah, but a good flush of the toilet about all it lasted. And by the end of Noah's stand-up routine, I guess you could say, he said some funny things, but he also said something that was, I thought was good to address the media today, particularly the press in Washington. That's just really in the tanks for progressives. He says, in America, you have the right to seek the truth and speak the truth, even if it makes people in power uncomfortable, even if it makes viewers or readers uncomfortable. You understand how amazing that is? I stood here tonight and I made fun of the President of the United States, and I'm going to be fine. And then he turns to Joe Biden and says, I am going to be fine, right? But anyway, I typically don't watch that, but I wanted to watch it this year since we hadn't had it in a couple of years, and but I thought it was pretty funny that he hit on everybody. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about more progressive hypocrisy and more liberal hypocrisy and the COVID hypocrisy that we've lived through for 2 years when we come back in just a minute.
Fantastic Sam's Cut and Color is hiring stylists. If you're driven, creative, and ready to make an impact, then we're looking for you. We offer competitive salaries, flexible schedules, and professional training with the newest technologies and equipment in the industry. Stop by your local Fantastic Sam's today and show us what you've got. Apply at locations in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Morehead City, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Fantastic Sam's, real salon experience, real savings, real fantastic.
Well, folks, it's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive.
Babe, it's 8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
It's going to change. I promise you. As I stand here, it will change. Okay, and when it does, that stadium, it's going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us. And I can promise you, there will be no quarter, ever.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville, do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back to News and Views on this Tuesday, May 3rd. And if you want to call in and talk about the news of the day, you can call in at 252-561-8255, 252-561-8255. I think we have a caller from Aiden. John, go ahead.
Yes, sir. It's a little change of the subject, but it's about the cognitive test for the president.
Uh-huh.
It reminded me, last week Dr. Oz was on Hannity, and he was telling about the cognitive test. And, once a year, my primary physician requires me to take the cognitive test because I'm on Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, why do I have to take one and leader of the free world doesn't?
John, that's a very good question. I know you probably remember when Donald Trump was in the White House, he intentionally took some cognitive tests, because the mainstream media continue to just berate him with things and question his cognitive ability. And if you're impartial at all, Donald Trump, I have to admit, Donald Trump said some things that made you kind of raise your eyebrows from time to time because he was just a New Yorker that, that's the way they are sometimes, particularly from where he was from, working in the construction trades and building hotels and that type of thing. But, Donald Trump was sharp as a tack. And when he started dealing with numbers, you knew, Donald Trump could go for an hour and talk about detailed numbers, whether it be the budget issue or whatever, and he never missed a beat. And having a little bit of experience, I'm certainly no medical person, but unfortunately I have experienced family members with cognitive issues over the years, and it's a sad thing to see. And, numbers is one of the first things to go. And you see that with President Biden all the time, where he will just, it's easy to make a mistake. I make mistakes on air all the time, but, he makes mistakes with numbers pretty frequently. And but that's a very good point, John. Hey, why not? But, they don't talk about it. Every time a question is raised by, Peter Doocy's the only one in the White House, correspondents, people that ask any questions about that, they just brush it off and never address it. But, that's a very good point. If you have to do it for Medicare, why not the leader of the free world? Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Good point. Very good point. And we have another caller, Ron, where are you from?
Greene County.
Greene County. What part of Greene County?
Between Hookerton and Walstenburg.
Okay. Greene County. I go through it every night on the way home. What's your topic of the day, Ron?
I just want to talk a little bit about what I was reading about Vladimir Putin, and now I find it interesting he's withholding like fertilizer and grain and things like that from when he probably needs to rethink that. But now they're talking about it could cause even more food supply shortages. And at the same time, we've got all these warehouses, these fertilizer and grain warehouses catching on fire. It's just an interesting observation. And all of this while all the other stuff that you guys have been talking about are going on, in the world. And so finding interesting all of it's coming down the pike at the same time.
That's a good point, Ron. And personally, I don't know that we've seen anything yet in terms of food prices because, to your point, Russia and Ukraine area is one of the largest producers of fertilizer in the world. I think the largest is Canada, and I think Russia is second. One of the largest deposits of fertilizer material is believed to be in Ukraine. Also, for all of Europe, a lot of southern Russia and Ukraine, especially Ukraine, it has been referred to the breadbasket of Europe several times. So, I don't think the average person realizes just how tough it is in the agricultural world when you have just a little bit of a hiccup in the supply chain and a little bit of decrease in supply. It dramatically affects worldwide food prices, and I think you're going to see, I don't know that we'll see anything in the United States other than just increase in prices, but I think you'll see food shortages throughout the world worse than we've ever seen, particularly in places that have issues in the first place that are just hard to get to, remote places to get to, or places that are not economically as viable as places like the United States. But that's a good point, Ron. Appreciate your call. All right. Before we go to the next break, we talked about some of the hypocrisy in Washington. Over the weekend, they had the Met Gala, and photos were coming out of all the liberal elites, and none more liberal and progressive than Hillary Clinton. And when we come back, we'll talk about just some of the hypocrisy of her and her eliteness at the Met Gala. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're on location today at Fabric and Home Furnishings, Arlington Village on Arlington Boulevard here in Greenville. One of my favorite places in town, one of my favorite people in town. My buddy Lisa Pendry is here. And Lisa, when I walked in this morning, the place always looks great, but there's something new here. You got a brand new room. Tell us what's going on.
We do, Henry. We are opening a Norwalk gallery, and we are so excited because this company is so custom. Been in business since 1902, built in Norwalk, Ohio. Tons of wood colors to choose from, over 900 fabric choices, and I've got a design team that can make it fabulous and help you find unique styles.
So when you say custom, a custom furniture line, what does that mean exactly?
You can literally choose the cushion, the fabric. You can even choose the thread color with this company. So wood choices, amazing fabrics, put 3 fabrics on 1 sofa, as much fun as you want to have.
And that's what people want these days. They want it to be exactly the way they want it, so you can get that with Norwalk.
You can.
All right, what else is new? You've always got some other interesting things going on here.
Well, we have some new fabrics that have arrived, but I've also, in this new showroom, I've added a friend of mine that's opened a company in Hickory, North Carolina called Hickory Luxe. Done business with him for a long time, but we're adding to that because he can deliver in 6 to 8 weeks instead of 8 months like some of these companies are, doing right now.
And as we always say, Fabric and Home Furnishings is a furniture store and so much more. And the so much more is you guys offer design services. I know you're a designer yourself. You have a design team here, so you can offer that full service for people.
I do. I've got the best design team ever. We do commercial design and residential. And there's a lot of decisions that go into what you want your home to be. So we send somebody right out to the house for a flat one-time fee, not an hourly fee. And we analyze it, make a friend, and make it easy and painless and fabulous for people.
Fabric and Home Furnishings here in Arlington Village. My friend Lisa Pendry. It's a furniture store and so much more. Come see them.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Empty lots at car dealers everywhere, except here. The selection you want is at Greenville Nissan. And during the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event, buy a new Nissan with financing as low as 0.9%. The versatile Nissan Rogue, the all-new Pathfinder, or gas-saving cars like Nissan Sentra and Altima. And yes, we have trucks. Buy the new Nissan Titan with 0.9% financing, or the all-new Frontier for $99 a month. Hurry to Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Man, I've got certain information, all right? Certain things have come to light, and this could be a lot more complex. I mean, it might not be just such a simple,
Sharing certain information is perfect for the Drive at 5 with Tom and Beanie.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
News now and when it breaks, with lots of blathering in between.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm blathering about.
Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back. We do news and a whole lot of views here, and an occasional bloviating moment from time to time. We have talked about over and over again for the last 2 years about the hypocrisy of the Democrats. COVID restrictions they want on everyone else, but when it comes to them, they have a different set of rules. We look back at Obama's birthday bash last year, and maskless people dancing up, having a good time when all the other restrictions was on everyone else. The Grammys and other celebrity events, places like New York and Democrat-run cities would have special rules for the elite, so to speak. We'd see Democrat governors like Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, and others not wearing masks when there was mask restrictions in every walk of life. Well, this weekend was no different. They had the Met Gala, and, of course, all the elites came out and showed off their fancy dress and suits and tux and that type of thing. And there's a photo circling around. It was on Fox News and several outlets and talked about it all over Twitter, of Hillary Clinton attending the Met Gala Monday evening. And it showed Clinton walking around the red carpet with a red ball gown. The failed presidential candidate was all smiles, posing for the camera without wearing a mask.
I'm exhausted.
While a masked African-American gentleman who appeared to be one of the event staffs doted on her, adjusted her dress, all while he was masked up. And you know what? We see this all the time at events, and it's just something that we have been seeing for 2 years, and I think the American people are tired of it. One last story of the day out of your, wow, why didn't they have that when I was in college? Out of WITN earlier in the week, it's finals week at East Carolina University, so the school's libraries is helping the students with anxiety and stress of exams with some goat therapy. Yes, they had some farm animals, specifically goats, to help the students melt away their exam anxieties for a few minutes before hurrying back to the study room. Back in my day, we had reading day, and what did we do? Well, we probably slept off hangovers, to be honest with you. But I want to know, where's my goat, ECU? You didn't have goats for me. Hey, we'll be back here tomorrow. We're going to have Judge Beth Freshwater Smith, so join us on News and Views tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
All right.
What do you see when you imagine life on the coast? Is it salty or sweet? Is it refined or a bit wild? Perhaps it's the perfect combination of everything you ever dreamed of. This is the very best of living on the coast. Bow Coast.
Well, folks, it's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive
Babe, it's 8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why it's special.
And the atmosphere in this place is special also. From the bar to the two dining areas. You got two different dining areas, and now the weather's nice, so there's going to be a lot of folks that want to eat outside.
Yeah, we have two rooms. One room is designed a little different. We're also working on the patio to make it more attractive and more useful in the summer with a cocktail service. And we're always improving our services.
And, of course, my friends here, my buddy, Chef Massimo, who I love, and Sal and Pietro, you guys do a great job here. Not just Italian, but I had a great pork chop here the other night. You got great